The mob. A certain Sufi once said to his followers, "We shall now practice the burning of the objects connected with our studies, the denunciation of the principles which all consider to be central to our beliefs, and the carrying out of the dervish science in places other than the customary ones." Taking this as a test of faith, many of his followers obeyed. Some even said, "How sublime that we should be learning to abandon externals, for this is surely a means of concentrating our attention upon essentials." A few years after this, there was a great commotion in the city in which this community was living. Someone came to them and said, "A decree has been passed declaring our activities illegal. Dervishes are being taken to prison. Mobs and police are destroying our centres. We are unable to protect our property." "Have no fear," said the Sufi to his disciples, "for our moment has now come." And when the mobs, instigated by the tyrant of the country, arrived a few minutes later, they did not pause, but swept past looking for victims. There was nothing that they could do at the Sufi's headquarters, for they could see that he and his people were busily dismantling it and feeding bonfires with their property. By behaving as a mob, the community maintained itself intact, and its members went free. They are the only survivors of the students of Sufism from that entire country. Invisible. A well-known Sufi was asked, "What is invisibility?" He said, "I shall answer that when an opportunity for a demonstration of it occurs." Some time later, that man and the one who had asked him the question were stopped by a band of soldiers. The soldiers said, "We have orders to take all dervishes into custody, for the king of this country says that they will not obey his commands, and say things which are not welcome to the tranquillity of thought of the populace." The Sufi said, "And so you should, for you must do your duty." "But are you not Sufis?" asked the soldiers. "Test us," said the Sufi. The officer took out a Sufi book. "What is this?" he said. The Sufi looked at the title page. "Something which I will burn in front of you, since you have not already done so," he said. He set light to the book, and the soldiers rode away, satisfied. The Sufi's companion asked, "What was the purpose of that action?" "To make us invisible," said the Sufi, "for to the man of the world, visibility means that you are looking like something or someone he expects you to resemble. If you look different, your true nature becomes invisible to him." Ahmed Yasavi. When Yasavi started to teach, he was soon surrounded by potential disciples and people of all descriptions. They all listened to what he had to say, but they insisted more and more loudly on him enrolling them in a regular teaching curriculum. Yasavi told them that he wanted them to build a special structure, a tekia, in which people could carry out exercises, similar to those which were found throughout Turkestan. Several hundred people worked under his directions for 6 months making this edifice. When it was complete, Yasavi said, "All who want to enter this building for instruction, please stand to the right over there, and those who do not want to do so, stand over there to the left." When they were arranged in the 2 groups, Yasavi said, "I dismiss all those who stand to the right. There is nothing I can do for you. Therefore return whence you came. The remainder may become my students. Their first task is to demolish the tekia." The dismissed students became disaffected and spread tales to the effect that Yasavi was insane. But it is from the selectivity of this madman of God that the teaching of the masters is derived. The touchstone knows what is gold. Gulistan. The Steam of the Pot of Ikhtiari. Just before leaving for India, Sheikh Abu Ali al-Ikhtiari visited all of the Sufi sheikhs of Baghdad. He told them, "If people come from afar seeking the way, tell them that you do not know me, and welcome them as travellers or shed them, for I shall have encouraged them only for a purpose." He went to India and lectured on the way to knowledge. People asked him where he came from, and he always said, "Baghdad, the centre of saintliness." Presently, in ones and twos, in caravans, and in all manner of ways, Indians began to descend upon the city of Baghdad. All the Sufis answered their questions by saying, "We do not know Sheikh Ikhtiari," or "We have heard of him, certainly." Jafar Zakaria was present when Abdul Qadir Mustafa remarked, after the visit of an Indian delegation, "How delightful to help Sheikh Ikhtiari by being ignorant of him." A visitor asked, "We all know the presence Ikhtiari. How do we help his work by being ignorant of it?" Sheikh Mustafa replied, "These people are merely the steam from Sheikh Ikhtiari's pot. They have left the stew and imagine that they are being improved by going somewhere else. If we say that we know Ikhtiari, they will return and plague him, having verified that he is well thought of in his native town. If we do not know him, they will either leave him in peace as worthless, or else attach themselves to someone else and plague that man instead. In either case, Ikhtiari remains free." The Journey. Ikhtiari relates, "I was sitting in the circle of Sheikh Abbas Ansari one day, when a youth came in and asked for help. 'I am going on a journey,' he said, 'and I would be grateful if you could give me introductions to the Sufis of Persia.' The Sheikh inquired as to the young man's route. Then he said, 'I am sorry, I cannot give you any introductions.' The visitor went sorrowfully away. As soon as he had gone, the Sheikh started dictating letters to his representatives in Persia on the route named by the young man. I wanted to ask him the reason for this extraordinary behaviour, but the etiquette of the sessions prevented it. Several evenings later, when we were gathered together after a contemplation session, Sheikh Abbas said to us all, 'If I had told that young man to visit certain of our friends, and that he would be welcomed, he would have been unable to learn, because I would have removed from his mind the determination to struggle, without which he could not have benefited from the meetings. I would also have given him an increased expectation, which would have been a barrier to his understanding.' I said, 'But will he not think that he is unworthy, and perhaps not attempt to make the journey?' 'If he does that, it would be a sign that he is in any case lacking in the necessary resolution, and he would not have succeeded in anything.' I asked, 'But will he perhaps think of you as not interested in his welfare, since you refuse to help?' The Sheikh answered, 'If he can turn against me so easily, then he cannot in any case learn. He would be like a dog which has refused a bone, and which would snap at whoever refused him, without thinking why.' I said, 'Is it undesirable for someone to feel gratitude towards another for his help?' Gratitude towards another has a limit. To rely too much on the help of another leads to despising oneself, and ends in opposition towards that other person. That is one reason why some people oppose those whom they have once admired. They owe them too much. Separations and meetings. Separations are better than unhappy meetings. Anwar-e Suhaili. Do not carry your year's burden on one day. Proverb. Patience is a garment which has never worn out. Akhlaq-e Mohsini. I don't know. Nazinda, a dervish wanderer from Bokhara, often used to say, "I don't know," when people asked him questions. In Allahabad, a discussion arose between those who said that a teacher should not admit ignorance of anything, and those who said that that was avowedly ignorant and was not worth discussing, and those who held various other points of view about the matter. The arguments were submitted to the Hindu Pandit Ram Lai, who said, "When he says 'I do not know,' he may mean that nobody knows. He may mean, again, that you do not know. He is at that moment showing your own self to you. He may mean that he does not need to know, because the question or the answer is fallacious." Someone asked, "Why does he not put it more specifically?" The Pandit said, "If he did that, he would seek to provoke thought and discussion." There is marrow in every bone, there is a man in every shirt. Sadi. How Kashmir Got Its Name. The legend runs that the place now called Kashmir was previously known as Beluristan, the land of crystal. A certain Pandit, whose name is now forgotten, was the spiritual teacher of this country, and people from everywhere used to go to follow his exercises and learn his wisdom. Then, one day, a descendant of the Prophet, a man of great knowledge, called a Mir in those parts, arrived to see the Pandit. He had one or two conversations with him, and then withdrew to a certain valley not far off. The Pandit said, "He will try to displace me, but there is little chance of this, for our shrine has been known to the east and west for many centuries." And he waited to see what the Mir would do. The Mir, far from setting up a shrine, started a fair, with swings and a marriage market, fortune-tellers and entertainers of all kinds. Drawn by this attraction, the followers of the Pandit made the Mir's revels the place of their nightly meetings, until the darshan, assembly of the Pandit, was generally unattended, and the flowers before his altar withered and were not replaced. Finally the Pandit, attended by his few remaining followers, went up the hill to the Mir's abode, and challenged him, saying, "You have taken away my people by deceit, and far from even inculcating in them good conduct and correct thought of any variety, you have imported into our country a form of license and reckless abandonment of spiritual values, which makes us stand aghast." The Mir answered, "Neither could you provide entertainment for your people, nor could you bind them to your person. To call them my people in itself speaks ill of you. If you had imprisoned their minds, they would have regarded me and my activities as evil. But you have not done this. This much you have achieved. If you had, however, provided your people with anything other than diversions which you called exercises, they would not so easily have accepted my entertainment. After all, yours is free, and they pay for mine." "Nay," said the Pandit, "it is rather that they are weak, and your activities have played upon their weakness." "If they are weak," responded the Mir, "and you cannot strengthen them, anyone or anything will play upon this weakness. Why are you not a strength for the weak, rather than a toy for the credulous?" It was at this moment that the Pandit, whose calm had been completely shattered by this unaccustomed experience, cried out the curse, "Kashmir," the local pronunciation for the words Kajmir, crooked Mir, or devious leader. "If this is devious," said the Mir, "then I would like this land to be known, as a matter of honour, henceforward not as Beluristan, but as Kashmir, the land of the indirect." Learn about hornets from those who have been stung by them. Proverb. The way which seems to lead to worthlessness. It is related of the Hazrat, Bahuddin Naqshband, that although he was for many years regarded as the very incarnation of gravity and politeness in public, and the restorer of the original school of Sufism, he often behaved like a clown when with close and influential associates. For decades he swore them to secrecy about this, and obtained from each one a signed statement that he was given to eccentric behaviour. Time and again they said to him, "Hazrat, we do not understand your peculiarity, but we will tell nobody about it. Why, therefore, do you accumulate evidence about it, signed documents which might at any time be produced in public to your disadvantage?" He never answered these queries until, towards the end of his life, burdened by the weight of grave and dignified followers who insisted upon their version of his weightiness, he started to act in an unconventional manner. Some of his more determined and most superficial followers were told to leave him. They said, "Alas, he is taking leave of his senses. To think that he was for so long such a paragon of conduct and an example to the whole world." Then Bahudin produced the documents which showed that he had always been of the same nature, and that it was the followers who had tried to make him into their own image of a man of the teaching. He says in his Risalat, or letters, "It is of the greatest importance that the Sufi should be able to be a fool and still be a Sufi. He must be able to appear an idiot, because when pedants monopolize the role of a man of learning, there must be people among whom real learning subsists. Mark one danger. Opposition to Sufis is not dangerous to them, because there will always be some people who will think that the opposition is due to jealousy and will therefore continue to try to follow the way. But as soon as the scholars succeed in making people think that Sufis are devoid of serious consideration, not worth anything, people will not listen to Sufis, because if man has a weakness, it is not to want to seem as if he is interested in anything worthless. Keep open the road which seems to lead to things of no consequence, viewed from the pedant's and the fanatic's eyes." The heavens. To the mallet of the highest mind, the heavens are the smallest possible ball. Akhlaq-i Mohsini. The bird and the water. A bird which has not heard of fresh water dips his beak in salt water year after year. Anwar-i Suhaili.